Thank you for having me and welcoming me. And JJ, thank you for asking me. I really appreciate it. Yes, I'm so glad to be here. I'm going to start with this awesome fraction of a prayer. You might know it as the fraction of the Lord's Prayer that says, "Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven." It's translated from the Aramaic, so it's like an older language, so it's longer than just that line. So that's why I want to share with you for the word of wisdom today. Your one desire then acts with ours. As in all light, so in all forms. Let all wills move together in your vortex, as stars and planets swirl through the sky. Help us love beyond our ideals and sprout acts of compassion for all creatures. As we find your love in ours, let heaven and nature form a new creation. Unite the crowd within a vision of passionate purpose. Light mates with form. Create in me a divine cooperation form, many selves, one voice, one action. Let your heart's fervent desire unite heaven and earth through our harmony. Your one desire then acts with ours, as in light, so in all forms. Amen. Rache. Or as we say, do. So that comes from Prayers of the Cosmos by Neil Douglas Klotz. So, like I said, I'm so grateful to be here. And in this little bit of time, I want to share with you some of my journey. And my intention is to invite you into an essence of what I've experienced. And maybe there's something in my journey that you'll relate to and can bring out into this world. And there's things that I have discovered in this journey. And one of them is that there is this wounding that we all share. And I don't even know if we all know that we all share this wounding, but I think that we're actually very united in this wounding. And when we can discover it, and then when we can engage with it and heal it, that's a uniting factor that can really change the balance of all this chaos and this confusion and this conflict that we're experiencing in this world as it's weaving itself into a different form right now. A little bit more about me. As you know, my name is Alexandra Loves. I also go by Iworiosa. And one of the things that I teach is anti-racism from a spiritual perspective, meaning a perspective from within, from looking at the world through your spirit's eye. And I also want to acknowledge that when the subject of race comes up, it can be scary. We can get caged. I just want you to know that I am not here to shame or guilt you, or to tell you what to do, or to speak down to you in any way. Those things don't belong in the conversation of race or activism, and we see that all the time, but that's not what I'm here to do. So if you felt anything, any kind of tension when I said race, let's just take a deep breath and just let that rest. Okay, so I grew up in Saudi Arabia in an international community. It was very, very mixed. I grew up without a race identity. So my parents, who were from New Orleans, they're Creole, they would say things like, oh, we're Black or African American, but it didn't stick to me because all of their stories of the United States were these foreign ideas and concepts that I didn't have any kind of indoctrination in. I didn't grow up there. We visited maybe once a year. So to me, that identity that was given to them by a society and by their family and by their community, that identity didn't mean anything to me at all. I wasn't aligned with that identity. So I grew up in this kind of without this identity, in this kind of like openness of like who I am and how to express myself. And you know, it's funny when we look at kids, we all come into this world as, you know, how they say the hollow bone, right? And I feel like it's one of the things that I am always trying to get back to. How do I slough off all these things that society and my parents and everybody has told me I am, and the country has told me that I am? How do I get back to that place where I can feel that seed of creator Mausebulusa, God, Allah, right? How do I feel that seed coming through me, through my spirit, along with my spirits and my ancestors? How do I feel that just coming through me and expressing in this world the way that little children do without any filters? Do you know what I mean? They just are who they are, right? How do I get back to that? And I notice in people that I guide and teach that is what they are looking for. I think we all are looking to get back to that place of being able to just be that hollow bone where God expresses, right? And I actually want to refer back to the prayer I just read. Let your heart's fervent desire unite with heaven and earth through our harmony. That's what I feel that is the sort of call that's happening right now. I feel like there's this beautiful relationship that I was experiencing until I moved to the United States. I moved to the United States, and I'm not saying that this is the problem of the country. That I'm not talking about a political problem. I'm talking about a very specific experience I had when I came to the United States, and that was I came to boarding school in New England, Massachusetts, and the first thing that I experienced was getting into the lunchroom, and it was segregated. And not just by race, but by identity. The hockey kids sat over there and they had their culture. the Asian kids sat over there and had their culture. The black kids sat over there and they had their culture. And I didn't fit in any of these tables. I tried to sit at many of them, didn't have these tables. And I had this singular experience where my counselor, the person of authority and my guide, first time living in the United States, by the way, came out to me and he said, you should join the Black Students Union. And I said, why? And he said, because you're Black. And it felt, I could tangibly feel it. This shackle came around my neck and went in that moment. I felt it. I was 15 at the time. I'm 40 now. I've spent my life from 15 till now suffering from that tension that's caused sickness, that's caused trauma, that's caused pain, identifying the trauma, and also learning how to get it out of my system. I think that we all have something like that when it comes to identity, whether we're aware of it or not. So, I'm going to get off cue here. Hold on just a second. So I went through this process, and as I got older, I was like, okay, I'm going to try to identify with Black identity. Well, what is this thing that people call Black? I understand the resiliency of a people who are trying to reconnect and reclaim identity so that they can make it their own when so much has been handed to them that is not their identity. Slavery is an identity. It's not who they are, right? There are people who are enslaved. Okay, so then enslavement turned into, these are Black people. Black is actually a title for slaves, and then people who are not slaves, and then it became African American. They're just political titles. Black, African American are just titles. It's the same with white. It's a political identity. It's not who you are. It was just a label to show some sort of supremacist class, but it's not who you are. It was given to you, it was put in your name. Same with me, same with all of us. Is that okay to say here? Everybody take a breath. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? Okay, good. All right, so I went through this journey and I was like, okay, I'm going to try to identify with Black. It doesn't work. I'm going to try to be African American. What does that mean? It doesn't work. And I kept coming back to this thing that I couldn't name at the time, and that was to be one with Creator, to be one with my spirits and ancestors, to identify that way first, and to be accepted that way by everybody around me. But I kept being told, you're Black, you're Black, you're Black, you're Black. This is the box, and this is what it means. And I bet if you really think about it, you experience that in your life too. You're white, you're white, you're right. You're brown, you're brown, you're brown. You know, whatever you are, here's your box, that's what it means. Don't step outside of it. And here's your shame and guilt that comes with it. Do you know what I'm saying? Is that okay? I mean, how long do we want to identify with that? No, I'm not saying that there aren't burdens and there aren't privileges that come with those political identities. That's real. You know, that layer of humanness is real. But when we're talking about how we connect and how we, what did that prayer say? How we come together to unite the fervent desire of heaven and earth through harmony, it doesn't have anything to do with black or white or vaccinated or not vaccinated or Christian or not Christian. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It has to do with how we're connected with Spirit and Creator. So I went through this journey of trying to identify and then realizing, like, no, I don't identify with this. And as I uncovered history and realized that all of us have been ripped away from a way of being, an essence of being that made it very easy for us to accept these identities that are given to us, I realized that, oh, there's a wounding here. We all have this wound, okay? I discovered in history that part of colonization, and I'm not going to get into the gruesome details, we know the gruesome details, but part of colonization has to do with genocidal acts. Somewhere in your bloodline, everybody, okay, somewhere in your bloodline, you were connected to the earth, nature. Somewhere in your bloodline, you had relationship and walked with ancestors. You knew that you were ancestors, you were made by ancestors and God and Spirit. Somewhere along the way, something came and severed your people from that belief system, from that knowing, from that embodiment. That was done to all of us. That makes us unaware of our incompleteness. And we can understand the concept. You all are religious people. You all have a relationship with God and you practice it. Obviously, you're here. You're practicing, right? We all understand that concept. But if we don't understand the fullness of how much bigger it actually is, it can be troubling to embody it when we're experiencing this world that says, here's what it means to be white, and here's what it means to you know, this is how you're supposed to carry your shame, and this is how you're supposed to interact with, you know, whatever it is. You all know what I'm talking about. So, okay, I know I'm at time now. Okay, so this wound that we all have, that I believe really unites us, is the wound that there is more to us in our spiritual life, and there's more to us than the political identities that we've been given. And I'm inviting you to think about a couple of things. One is that when it comes to these race identities, is that quite simply, someone thought of it, someone believed it, and look what it's done so far. I just want you to start thinking. I'm asking you, inviting you to start thinking of race identities that way. Someone thought of it, someone believed it, look what it's done so far. Whether we're aligned with it or not. Simplify it if you start getting into, you know, believing it too much. The other thing I'd love to invite you all into is letting go of those identities as soon as possible. And I don't mean that we ignore that there's privilege and burden with all these political identities that we're given. But I truly believe that to get back to our relationship, to really embody that relationship, not just in practice and belief, but in the embodiment that we are part of a seed of Creator, God, Allah, Mause Bulisa, however you look at this entity that is Creator, right? To get back to the embodiment of that we are that seed expressing fervent desire. And that comes with our spirits and our ancestors, and that we are part of nature, just like the trees and the water and the fire. I'm asking you to let go, if you can, just a little bit, any identity you have with white, brown, black. Does that sound like an okay request? Just think about it. So that's all I want to say. Thank you. I really appreciate you listening to what I had to say. I hope I conveyed an essence and shared my journey in a way that was helpful and that could be heard. And I'm excited to share a song with you at the end of service that really speaks to prayer finding itself, and creation and creator finding any way to express prayers that people can receive, and that how we can do that too. We can live our life in ceremony, and everything that we do is in prayer, because we are spirit, ancestor, and the seed of God in this hollow bone expressing itself all the time. So we'll get to that soon. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Alexandra. In response, let's sing together a hymn from our New Century hymnal,